Okay, so picture this for a second. It is late. We're talking like 3 in the morning late. You're on a motorbike. You can feel the engine humming, winds just whipping past your face. You've got two of your best friends with you doing that classic road trip thing. But you're riding through this really dense forest. And it's not a nice park-like forest. No, it's the kind where the trees sort of lean in a little too close. They just block out the sky.
It creates a very specific kind of vulnerability, doesn't it? I mean, being on a bike, you're already exposed. But at night, in that kind of environment, you're moving through what folklorists often call a liminal space.
A liminal space.
Yeah, it's a transition zone. You aren't home, you aren't at your destination yet, you're just nowhere. And historically, that is exactly where the supernatural loves to creep in.
Exactly. And in the account we're diving into today, the atmosphere is, it's dialed up to 11. It's a full moon night. So you have that deceptive calm. The moonlight is filtering through the clouds, lighting up these little patches of road, but it leaves the rest in just absolute pitch darkness. Oh, it's beautiful, sure, but in a way that just makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. You know that feeling.
Oh, absolutely. It's the contrast that gets you. If it were totally pitch black, you'd just be focused on the headlight. But with the moon, you see shapes. Your brain starts batter matching, trying to find threats in the shadows. And in this story, the headless haunting of Devgar Forest, those threats turn out to be very, very real.
Yeah, this isn't just the spooky feeling. This goes off the rails fast. We're going to unpack this whole narrative step by step. And our mission today is to really figure out the logic of this haunting. Because this isn't your standard ghost says boo story. There are rules here. Terrifying, specific rules.
That's what makes this one stand out to me. We're looking at a survival story that just keeps shifting genres. It starts as a road trip, becomes a creature feature, turns into a psychological thriller, and then ends with this ritualistic exorcism. The narrator is forced into a role he never asked for. He goes from being a guy needing a bathroom break to being a detective, and then finally a medium for the dead.
And let's be honest, the stakes are so high. You've got the bike, the isolated forest, the skepticism of one friend versus the absolute terror of another. It's like the perfect cocktail for a disaster.
It is.
So, let's set the stage. We have a trio of friends. There's the narrator who's driving the bike. Then you've got Rahul sitting in the middle. And finally, Vikram, who's on the back seat. They're just cruising through the Devgar forest.
And just imagine the soundscape for a second. You cut the engine, and usually a forest is loud, right? Crickets, wind, rustling leaves. But here, it's a vacuum. The account emphasizes that heavy, oppressive silence. That silence is a predator in itself, because it means everything else in the forest is hiding from something.
Right. Nature knows when to shut up. And then we get the inciting incident, the thing that kicks off every bad decision in the history of horror movies.
A bathroom break.
That bathroom break!
It's so mundane, though. That's what makes it so believable. Rahul speaks up and says, "Brother, stop the bike. I really need to pee." And the narrator admits he needs to go too. It grounds the story. They aren't stopping to investigate some weird light. They're stopping for a biological necessity. They are vulnerable because they're human.
So the narrator stops the bike on the side of the road. And here's where the fatal mistake happens, the separation. The narrator and Rahul go to one side of the road to read themselves. But Vikram goes to the other side, toward the bushes.
It creates an immediate physical barrier. You have the road dividing the group, two on one side, one on the other. It splits their attention and their line of sight. And in survival situations, splitting the party is always where things go wrong.
So, a few minutes pass. The narrator and Rahul finish up, head back to the bike. They're zipping up, ready to get going. And they're expecting Vikram to be there, maybe checking his phone or just leaning on the bike. But he's not there.
Silence returns. And the narrator calls out, "Vikram, where are you?" No answer.
And at this point, your brain tries to rationalize it, right? You don't jump straight to monster. The narrator thinks it's a prank. I mean, that's what friends do. They hide in the bushes to scare you. So he starts counting.
That counting detail is fascinating to me. It's an attempt to assert control over a chaotic situation. "I'm counting to 5. If you don't come out, we're leaving." He's trying to force reality back to normal. He's bluffing the universe.
Exactly. 1, 2, 3. He's waiting for the giggle. 4, 5.
And just as he hits 5, the reality of the situation shatters the prank theory completely.
A scream tears through the forest.
And we aren't talking about a playful gotcha scream. The story describes it as heart-shaking. Vikram screams, "Save me! Leave me alone!" It is the sound of pure, unadulterated terror. Now, look at the reaction here. This is a pivotal moment in the group dynamic. Rahul, the friend in the middle, he still clings to the rational explanation. He says, man, he's doing drama, he's acting.
Mm-hmm.
Rahul is experiencing what we call normalcy bias. He refuses to accept that the safety of their world has been breached. He is in denial because the alternative is just too terrifying to process.
But the narrator knows. He says he could feel the genuine vibration of fear in Vikram's voice. That instinct just kicks in. So despite the darkness, despite the fear, they run toward the scream. They cross that road into the deep jungle.
And this is where the pursuit begins. They don't find Vikram standing there laughing. They find the aftermath of violence.
They see blood on the leaves, fresh blood. And worse, they see drag marks on the ground. Something or someone has been physically pulled away with massive force.
Then they look up. And the story gives us a visual that is going to stick with me for a long, long time. They look ahead into the darkness and they see a woman. She's wearing a black sari. And she is dragging Vikram by the leg.
That image is nightmarish. Just imagine the strength required to drag a grown man by the leg through a forest floor. It's not like dragging a suitcase. Bodies are heavy, dead weight. But it's not just the strength, is it? It's the movement that freaks me out.
Correct. The narrator notes her speed. It says her speed was not human. She vanishes into the darkness in the blink of an eye. This is the moment the genre shifts. This confirms to the narrator and Rahul that they are dealing with something supernatural. This isn't a kidnapping by bandits. This is an entity that defies physics.
So they have a choice. Run back to the bike and flee, save themselves, or follow the monster into the pitch black. They choose to follow. They track the drag marks through the undergrowth, and these marks lead them to a specific location.
The setting shifts from the organic chaos of the forest to a structure. They find an old, dilapidated, two-story haveli hidden right there in the middle of the woods.
Now, for our listeners who might not be familiar with the term, can you paint a picture of what a haveli actually is? Because I'm picturing just a big house, but I feel like there's more weight to it.
Oh, absolutely. A haveli isn't just a house. It's a traditional mansion or townhouse in the Indian subcontinent, usually with a central courtyard. Historically, they represent wealth, feudal power, status. But in the context of horror and folklore, an abandoned haveli is like the archetypal haunted castle. It represents decaying grandeur, trapped history, secrets hidden behind high walls. It's a place that was once full of life and is now just a shell.
Right, so it's creepy on a cultural level, too. It's covered in vines, crumbling walls. It looks like it's been abandoned for decades. And as they approach, they hear one last scream from Vikram coming from inside. And then silence.
That silence is worse than the screaming. It implies a conclusion. It implies that whatever was happening is finished.
Now Rahul is breaking down. He's terrified. He says, it's a witch, it's a Dayan, we shouldn't go in there. He represents the flight response. He wants to survive.
And a Dayan or Chudail are specific terms in South Asian folklore for a malevolent female spirit, often created from a woman who died a traumatic or unnatural death. Rahul is exactly what they're dealing with. He knows the lore.
But the narrator displays this profound sense of loyalty, or maybe just adrenaline-fueled stupidity. He refuses to leave his friend to die. He overrides his own survival instinct. He grabs a wooden stick, which, let's be real, is a pretty pathetic weapon against a ghost, and they enter the haveli.
The sensory details here are just gross, but so effective. They open the door, and a flock of bats flies out. It's a classic horror trope, but it works because it disorients them immediately. It sets the tone that this place belongs to the night.
They move deeper into the house, and as they look toward the upper floor, they see blood. It's flowing down the stairs.
That's a lot of blood. It's not just a drop. It's flowing like a spilled drink. They force themselves to go up those stairs, following the trail. They reach the corridor on the upper floor, and, well, prepare yourself for this image.
They find Vikram.
They find his body.
They find Vikram's body hanging upside down in the corridor. But there is a massive, horrific problem. He's headless.
The shock of that discovery must be paralyzing. You're looking at your friend who was sitting on the back of your bike 10 minutes ago, joking around, and now he has been brutally butchered. The visual of the headless body is the ultimate violation of identity.
But here's the twist. Here's the thing that makes the story stick with me and honestly makes me feel a little sick. As they're staring at this headless body, they hear Vikram's voice.
This is the psychological break. The voice says, "Brother, save me."
How? How is that even physically possible? The narrator looks toward a dark room where the voice came from. He shines his mobile flashlight into the darkness, and the beam hits the entity.
And this reveal is where the headless haunting gets its name. They see the woman in the black sari, but she is also headless.
Yeah.
Her neck ends in Nothing.
But she's holding something in her hand.
She is holding Vikram's severed head,
Oh, God.
and it is the head that is speaking.
Okay, stop. I'm actually getting chills. The idea of something holding your friend's head and using it like a puppet.
It's a grotesque form of ventriloquism, but it's deeper than that. The story clarifies that the head is the one speaking. The entity is channeling through it. It's a violation of the victim even after death. It's not just killing him, it's using him. It denies him the peace of death.
And then the woman speaks, or rather, she speaks through the head. She gives them an ultimatum. She says, "Sakli, bring me my head, or I will take yours."
This changes the entire dynamic of the encounter. Up until this point, it has been a predator hunting prey. Now, it's a transaction. She isn't a mindless killing machine. She has a goal. She is an incomplete soul.
But wait, why does she need him to do it? She's a powerful supernatural entity. She can move at super speed. She can rip heads off grown men. Why can't she just float into the pond and get her own head?
That's the paradox of the ghost, isn't it? In almost every folklore tradition, spirits have immense power to harm or terrify, but they lack the agency to perform holy or restorative rituals. They're stuck in a loop of their own trauma. She can take a life, but she cannot heal her own death. She needs a living vessel, a human with a soul still in their body, to break the cycle for her.
That makes sense. She's physically powerful, but spiritually impotent. And she actually tells them her story. She gives them the backstory right there in the dark room.
That's a tragic history. Years ago, her husband was murdered by some boys. They cut off his head and threw it into the pond behind the Haveli.
That explains the rage. That explains the violence against men specifically.
Exactly. She is reenacting the trauma. Her husband was decapitated, so she decapitates her victims. But there's a specific ritual required for her peace. She tells the narrator that her soul will only be liberated if her husband's head and body are burned together.
So she's outsourcing her unfinished business. The narrator has to leave the relative safety of the confrontation and go back out into the dark alone.
This is the quest. And this is the part that I think is the most terrifying, even more than the ghost encounter. The narrator has to go to the pond behind the Haveli.
Let's really picture this. It's the middle of the night. You're in a cursed forest. You've just seen your friend beheaded. And now you have to wade into a murky, muddy pond.
Think about the sensory horror of that. The water is stagnant, it's thick with mud and decaying plants. He has to wade in, waist deep, and he can't see anything beneath the surface. He has to feel around with his hands.
Ugh. Every stick, every rock, his brain must be screaming that it's a bone or a snake, or worse, that something is going to grab his hand and pull him under.
And he's looking for a human skull,
A
a rotting skeletal object. The revulsion he must feel, forcing his hands into that slime over and over again, knowing that the clock is ticking. If he takes too long, he dies. If he runs away, he dies.
The desperation is just palpable. The story says he searched for hours. Hours. Can you imagine the mental toll of waiting in that darkness for hours?
It's an endurance test. It strips away everything but the will to survive. And finally, his fingers brush against something round, something that feels different than a rock.
He finds it. He finds the skeletal head trapped in the mud. He pulls it out, dripping with muck. But he's not done. He can't just hand it to the ghost.
No, the ritual requires reunification. He has to dig up the woman's grave, presumably where the husband's body or her body was buried nearby. The story implies he has to exhume the remains to put the pieces back together.
So he's digging in the earth now, exhausted, terrified. He places the skeletal head with the remains, and he lights the fire.
This is the climax, the cremation. Fire is a purifying element in almost every culture's folklore, especially in Hindu traditions. It releases the soul from the earthly tether. As the flames rise, the narrator isn't just burning bones, he is burning the curse itself.
The story describes the visual of the spirit merging into the sky with the flames. It is a moment of release. The haunting ends. The narrator somehow survives the night. He manages to escape the forest.
But at what cost? He survived, but he lost Vikram. He witnessed things that cannot be unseen. He is walking away with a heavy, heavy burden.
So let's unpack this resolution. They started the night just needing a bathroom break. By sunrise, the narrator has solved a murder mystery, performed an exhumation, conducted a cremation ritual, and survived a supernatural encounter. It's a lot for a Tuesday.
It really highlights the theme of unfinished business that is so prevalent in ghost stories. But here, the unfinished business wasn't just some vague regret. It was a specific, physical missing piece, the head.
And the ghost was incredibly proactive about it. She didn't just haunt the hallway, she took a hostage. She used leverage.
That's what makes this entity so dangerous. She possessed intelligence. She could communicate, bargain, and execute a plan. She used Vikram as a pawn to get what she wanted. It forces us to rethink what a ghost is in these stories. Is it just a memory, or is it a trapped consciousness desperate to get out?
It brings up a really unsettling point about the nature of these hauntings. You mentioned the incomplete soul.
Right? This story is very specific. This is not a human. This is an incomplete soul. The haunting wasn't just about the location. It was about the desecration of the body. The separation of the head from the body prevented the soul from moving on.
So the violence of the haunting mirrored the violence of the death. Her husband lost his head, so she takes heads. It's a loop of trauma.
Precisely. And the narrator was the only one who could break that loop, not by fighting her with a stick, but by restoring that physical wholeness to the dead husband.
It raises a provocative question for us to consider as we wrap up. We often think of ghosts as being bound to a location because of the violence of their death, right? Like, oh, he was murdered here, so he haunts here.
Exactly. But in this case, the story suggests it was the desecration of the remains, the separation of the head and the throwing of it into the pond that bound the entity. It makes you ask, is a haunting about the emotional trauma of dying? Or is it simply about the physical disrespect shown to the body?
That is a chilling thought. If the boys had just killed the husband but buried him properly, would this Haveli be haunted at all? Maybe the ritual is more important than the crime itself. It's not the murder that traps you, it's the lack of a funeral.
It suggests that our rituals, funerals, burials, cremations, aren't just for the living to say goodbye. They are a necessary mechanics for the dead to leave. Without them, you get stuck.
Well, on that cheerful note, we are going to let you ruminate on that. Next time you're out for his late night drive, keep your eyes on the road.
And if you see Haveli in the woods, maybe just keep driving.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you in the next one.